In 2016, I was on a comedy tour of Cambodia. We were in Sihanoukville. I was hanging out at a bar after a show, and a woman came up to me and said, "Hey, do you remember me?" And I said, "No, I'm afraid not." And she said, "Well, we slept together in 2013. And I said, "Well, 2013 was a pretty big year for me." And she said, "Well, after we slept together, you wired me $140 to have an abortion." And I said, "Oh, hey, okay, yeah. That rings a bell. Yes. What's up?" She said, "Well, I just wanted to let you know that I didn't have that abortion, and you have a 3-year-old daughter." And I said, "Great, well, I'm pretty tipsy right now, so why don't we just exchange numbers, right? And we can talk soon. Starting with you can pay me back that $140 for services not rendered, right? Those funds were earmarked, okay?" I was 26 years old, and I was terrified that I might be a dad. I was like, I can't have a kid right now. I can barely look after this kid, the kid that is me, right? I was just abject terror. I went back and forth for weeks with Rex, trying to get her to agree to a paternity test. It was the weirdest dichotomy of feelings I've ever experienced, right? My friends were like, "You can't let her do this to you, man. You gotta get that paternity test. You can't let her lie and ruin your life. Or maybe you're the dad and then you have a wonderful little girl." Really hard to pick a lane there. So in the end, eventually she asked me for money, and I said I wouldn't give her any money unless she would submit to a paternity test, and she stopped talking to me. So I thought at the time that was proof positive that she was lying. But the last thing she said to me was, "Well, I hope you have some other little girl and that you can be in her life, because I am never going to let you be a part of Sally's life." And I couldn't know at the time how much those words would haunt me, because it turned out that I hadn't really settled the question in my own head. I was still wondering whether this little girl might be my child. And for me, you can only wonder whether for so long before you start to wonder about other things. You know, what this child is like, where this child is, how this child is doing, whether this child is wondering about me. I felt a whole mess of emotions during that time, which are difficult for me to elaborate on because I turned away from them. And I used alcohol to help me do that, to the extent that within 4 months of that night after the comedy show in Sihanoukville, I had stopped drinking altogether because I had to. In the process of getting sober, I had to, really examine myself. In order to drink as much as I was drinking, even before I found out about Sally, you have to come up with ways to justify your drinking. And in order to come up with ways to justify your drinking, you have to become pretty adept at lying, both to yourself and to other people. So as I got sober, as I started to examine my dishonesty, as I started to examine my fabrications and my own delusions that I'd been preserving in my head, I eroded a lot of the trust that I had for myself. And as murky and suspicious as Rex Mai's motives were, I started to doubt my own motives. I started to think of it like, man, isn't that convenient that she asked you for money and then stopped talking to you? I started worrying that one day Sally was going to find me as an adult and demand to know why I hadn't been in her life, and that the only thing I would be able to say for myself would be, "Yeah, sorry, your mom is like really shady, so That's why we've never had a relationship. Hope that answers your question. So I really felt that I hadn't done enough to find out the truth and to be in this little girl's life, and because of that, I began to think of myself as being a fundamentally terrible person. I thought of myself as a deadbeat dad. And I carried that label around until I just couldn't anymore. In the spring of 2018, I was just gripped with this sudden urgency to find out the truth, and I started calling the numbers that I had for Rex Mike. One of them had been reassigned to this family in Kampong Cham who did not know Rex Mai or Sally, and yes, they were sure about that. In the meantime, I decided to just open up to my best friend about what I was going through, and she said, hey, well, I know this Cambodian detective. This is a true story, Michael. Said, I know this Cambodian detective. And I said, great, hook me up with him. His name is Ty. The day before I was supposed to meet Ty, I'd still been ringing the one remaining number that I had for Rex Mai every morning during my morning break. And one day, somebody answered. The day before I was supposed to meet Ty, somebody picked up. This was a huge breakthrough. I had been calling this number every morning for weeks without getting any response. I got this older Cambodian man. His name was Chana. He turned out to be Rex Mai's father. This was a huge breakthrough that I was not ready for, especially since it turned out Chana didn't speak any English. So I just had to do my best with the Khmer that I had. I was like, hello, older brother. This is how I imagined myself to sound in Khmer. I was like, Rex might tell me that Sally is baby me. Chana said, well, what do you want to do about that? And I said, well, what we will do is we take the little girl, we take her water mouth, and we take my water mouth, and we send it to the doctor, and they tell us, yes, this is baby you, or no, this is baby various people. And Chana said, cool, we'll come over on Saturday, right? Sounds like a plan, dude, right? Oh, we called him back. I met with Ty the next day. Ty called him back. They decided, it would be best if Ty went instead of me, because it was a delicate situation. And also, I liked that idea because I was really worried that in collecting the sample that I would sneeze on the Q-tip and contaminate it, that we would send it in and they'd be like, oh, you know what? Not only is this your child, this is your clone. She received no DNA from her mother. The only differences in your appearance are due to environmental factors. Yeah. She'd been born in Massachusetts, she'd be a big, pasty white comedian right now, but seeing of Bill, eh? All right, but later that day, after Ty and I talked with Chana, I got a call from Rex Mai. She was livid that we've been talking to her dad instead of her. I said, well, look, I tried to ring you, but instead I got these people in Kampong Cham who promised me that they'd never heard of you. I didn't know what else to do. Right? By the end of the conversation, she actually agreed to put Sally on the phone with me. I heard her saying, not gay, not gay, which means, who is that? And then she said, Srai Sa'at, because my profile picture on WhatsApp, my contacts are laughing right now. My profile picture on WhatsApp was Anne Hathaway. So, long story, but the resemblance is there, okay? So, with Rex Mai involved, right, she proved to be kind of a battle axe, and Ty was like, oh, I'm in over my head here, man. He was like, I'm gonna bring my wife Chanin with me. He said, we need a woman's touch on this. and said, for childcare reasons, I'm going to bring my two daughters as well. So, okay. I was like, that's great. If nothing else, then at least a nice Cambodian family got a beach holiday. If not answers, then at least memories, right? So they went down to Sihanoukville to try and get Rex Mai to agree to a paternity test. She wouldn't let them meet the child. In a last-ditch effort to try and coax her to let them meet Sally, they called me down. And the result of that was that Rex Mai got to tell me right to my face that she hoped I had another little girl because I was never going to be a part of Sally's life. On the phone, on the way back to Phnom Penh, she called me up and she told me that the reason she wouldn't let Thai or Channing meet Sally was because she thought they were under instructions to just abduct this baby. And she said that she didn't want to do the paternity test because she was worried I would use the results to legally claim custody of Sally, which sounded far-fetched, but I kind of wanted to believe her. Because you can't carry around this image of yourself as a deadbeat dad without also carrying around this idea of your child. You know, and I don't have the emotional intelligence to be like, okay, we're going to do a paternity test, and then in 6 to 8 weeks, I will decide if I love you. That's not something I'm capable of. So in the meantime, I just texted Rex Mai once a month over WhatsApp to try and keep the line of communication open until that number got reassigned. Yeah, by the profile picture, I would guess it was a Cambodian schoolboy. Probably wondering why he got a text every month that said, "How are you doing, Rex Mai?" from Anne Hathaway. So, in the meantime, I didn't really know what to do. I decided to just study, brush up on my Khmer, because just in case, I believe that every child has the right to ignore their father in their first language. And 3 weeks ago, me and my brother Roswell decided to just go down to Sihanoukville on a wild goose chase and see if we couldn't find Rex Mai. It was, I didn't love our odds, honestly. It wasn't as though the trail had gone cold. Like, we're talking about Sihanoukville, the trail had been demolished. It had half a casino built on top of it, which had then been abandoned. We only had one. The best photo we had of Rex Mai was one that Thai and Chinese daughter had taken. The Cambodian detectives, their 10-year-old was a budding detective herself. She pretended to be playing mobile games and then just barely got Rex Mai into frame there. We cropped that to make it look like Rex Mai had known she was having her picture taken. And we showed that to everybody. Everybody we met. We showed it to Pass App drivers. We showed it to bartenders. We showed it to the Mike of Mike's Burgers. And all of them were, yeah, he was down there. Yeah, try the ribs. And all of them were really polite about it, but you could tell that they really wanted to say, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you two slept together. Yeah. She don't love you and she gone, right? That was on the tip of everyone's tongue, but they just went, oh no, sorry. Not familiar with her, sir. That'll be 5,000 real. We went to the place where she used to work, and none of them recognized her. But they said, our cook has been here for 5 years. Come back tomorrow morning, you can check with our cook. The cook just gave us that, bad news smile, oh, sorry, I don't know her either. That was our best lead. We just took to walking dejectedly down the beach back to our hotel. I remember saying to Roswell, maybe this is just our annual pilgrimage that we make. Maybe this is just a quixotic sojourn we take every year. We come down to Sihanoukville and show everybody this picture and then fuck off home. We stopped at a place on the beach for Roswell to pee. Indoors, don't worry. And And while he was doing that, this woman came up and offered me a massage. And I said, no, I'm not looking for a massage. I'm looking for this woman I know. And she went, oh, you're looking for Smite. And I went, what? Smite? How did you know that her name is Smite? Right? And this coterie of other massage ladies kind of materialized around us. All of his friends with this woman. Her name was Mo. Mo instructs everyone. She says, oh, this guy's looking for Smite. And this Greek chorus of massage ladies. It's just like, well, you know that Smite moved to France with her new husband, and then they watched me so closely. So they thought they were about to see my heart rip in half, right? They were on standby for total devastation. They said, okay, well, Smite told me that I'm the father of her child. And they went, oh, well, her child is still here. Mo was like, yeah, go have a beer on the beach, and I'll go fetch her. And we said, oh, well, we got a bus at 3. And so Mo just goes, all right, come on, right? Just marches off. We thought she was a promising lead. She was ready to crack this case wide open. She was just like, I will take you to the child. She was marching along. Her friends were like, Mo, where are you going? She went, I'm going to a hotel. No, just kidding. Piled into a pass app, and we pulled up at this really random little alley. Like, even from the street, it was hard to tell that it was there. It was only wide enough to admit one motorbike. Right? And Mo jumps out first, and she goes to this little convenience store at the corner. We're not talking Panda Mart. We're talking like an orange cooler type of affair. Right? It's got the dangling festoons of little shampoo packets. Definitely had a parasol with a cigarette lighter hanging from it by a plastic ribbon, right? And she says to the shop lady, like, hey, you know Sally? This is Sally's dad. I'm taking Sally's dad to meet her. And the shopkeeper goes, oh, I love Sally. She's so beautiful. She looks just like you. Oh, okay, what have we gotten ourselves into right now? They had to summon a neighborhood boy to pilot us down this warren of little alleys to where Sally lived. And it was so narrow that we had to walk single file. So we had this little boy leading the procession, and then Mo, and then me, and then Roswell bringing up the rear. And Mo was just heralding our arrival, right? She had the hot gossip. You were going to hear it from her. This was her story. She was like, this is Sally's father. He's coming to see, I'm taking him to go see his daughter. He's never met her before. Right? Everyone's already gawking to see foreigners in their alley, right? But then when they find out that one of those foreigners is the father of a child they know, that gawking turns to gaping. They're all just staring appraisingly into my face to try and see Sally's features in my own. Finally got up to Chana's house, and he already knew we were coming because word had reached them. Right? It was Sunday afternoon. Nothing else was going on. This was the event of the season, right? Of course he knew we were coming. He was just like, hey, yeah, come on in. He sat us down in plastic chairs. It was me and Roswell and Chana and Sally, and it was really insane to lay eyes on Sally for the first time, right? Because I didn't know whether or not I was meeting my daughter, but I knew that I was meeting the little girl that I had been thinking about for years, right? I had really gone down the rabbit hole on that one. I picked out a car for us. I picked out an apartment. I decided I was going to go back to the United States and get certified to be a real teacher, not just an English teacher. I was going to come back and teach at Northbridge so I could get her free tuition, and then she could also come and hang out and have lunch with me, because, you know, when you're in high school, you want to spend time with your dad instead of your friends, right? When your parent teaches at your school, you want to draw attention to that fact by hanging out with them during the day. Look, maybe I was a little naive on some of these, but that's where my head was going. My heart was racing. I couldn't take my eyes off of her. I was looking in her face to try and see a resemblance the same way her entire neighborhood had just done to me. And on Sally's end, this is probably one of the weirdest things that had ever happened to her, right? Like her grandfather told me she was 4 years old plus, and I think in all of those 4 years, she probably had only ever heard people speak impeccable Khmer to her, right? And here I'm like, hello! Your mom, I call your mom on the phone 2 years ago, do you remember? She was just like, if I don't look at him, maybe he can't see me. Right? It was bizarre. Chana was just like, oh, so you're the guy who called me in 2018. Well, what's going on? Right? And I had been working on my Khmer since then. Right? I went over paternity test vocabulary with my Khmer tutor. Right? I was like, well, sir, what we would like to do is use a cotton swab to collect some of the little girl's water mouth. Turns out I was right about that one. That's the word. That's the word. Very user-friendly language. Come on. We want to take some of her water mouth, some of my water mouth, and then we will send it away, and they will do a test to check the DNA. Ooh. At a laboratory. That's right. Kind of 90 South, right? So Chana, we didn't even have Q-tips, right? Like I hadn't left my hotel with that kind of optimism. Like, you know what? I bet we're gonna bump into someone who drives us to her house. That's what we're gonna do. But the thing is that this community, they just gave a boy 500 real and went, go. Fetch some Q-tips and bring them back post-haste, right? We just swabbed the inside of her mouth, and then we pay it, and then we just kind of beat it. Yeah, so what I did is I sent those samples to a laboratory, and the results are here. So we're gonna find out tonight what it is that I have to let go of, right? Either I'm gonna let go of the way I thought my life was going to be, or I'm gonna have to let go of Sally. And I think it is possible that I'm trying to prepare myself here. I think it's possible that Rex might lie. I think maybe her miscalculation was she thought that I was a terrible person and that I had money. I mean, a lot of the advice I got when I told people that I might have a child is that people told me, give her $1,000 to never contact you again. Right? And I was like, $1,000? That's a shitload of money. I was like, I can just give up on my dreams and be a dad for free. You know that, right? Like $1,000. It's like, I might have a little girl. I don't need that money for diapers and tuition and stuff. It's been a long time that I haven't had answers here. And as much as it hurts to think that I was a deadbeat dad, and as scary as the prospect of trying to rise to the occasion and be a father was, the worst feeling out of this whole thing was in 2018 when I started to think that maybe Sally didn't exist. And I missed her so much. What if we just inception it? What if we just don't open it? You guys hate that idea. Fine. Okay, so it says probability of paternity 0%. But you want to talk about a testament to the power of storytelling, right? Somebody lied to me, but I'm in a better place as a result of that. I'm going to leave you now. I have some letting go to do. Thank you.